Engineers in high demand for national development. 11 items listed under Christmas maximum price scheme and the UN to convene on climate change and war-free world. Assalamualaikum and a very good evening. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Muhammad Yusuf and this is TVS Nightline. We begin with our top story. The United Nations, or UN, has set September 2023 as the date where members will convene to discuss matters pertaining to climate change and the conflict between Ukraine and Russia. Its Secretary General Antonio Guterres said the summit will be a no-nonsense convention and any members who wish to partake must present a solution to address the two aforementioned global issues.
Credible, serious and new climate action and nature-based solutions that will move the needle forward and respond to the urgency of the climate crisis must be presented. It will be a no-nonsense summit, no exceptions, no compromises. And I am more determined than ever to make 2023 a year for peace, a year for action, as we cannot accept things as they are. We owe it to people to find solutions, to fight back, and to act.
Countries are under pressure to ensure emissions are cut in half by 2030 and down to net zero by 2050, which is the only solution to hold global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius, which was a goal agreed in the 2015 Paris Agreement. On Russia's conflict with Ukraine, Guterres said the war will continue to take place as he is skeptical about effective peace talks between the two countries. However, he remains optimistic that in 2023, peace can be achieved as the consequence of the war impacts the global economy severely.
And the consequences for the global economy, especially for developing countries, with the high prices of food and energy and with all the other difficulties that compound those high prices. I mentioned debt increase, I mentioned lack of fiscal space and the dramatic situation of increased inequalities that the developing countries are suffering. All these are reasons for us to do everything possible to make a peace solution happen before the end of 2023.
In the meantime, Guterres said efforts would be focused on resuming shipments of food and fertilizers from Ukraine's Black Sea port. Currently, the prices of fertilizers have spiked more than 250%, he added. If demands of fertilizers are not met, it will result to less food production in 2023, which might cause a global shortage of food supply.
The Ministry of Domestic Trade and Cost of Living has listed 11 items under the Christmas Festive Season Maximum Price Control Scheme, or SHMPP. Its Minister Datuk Sri Salahuddin Ayub said the scheme would be implemented for 5 days from December 23rd to 27th.
Kita telah mengenal pasti ada 11 jenis barangan yang kita letakkan di bawah skim harga maksimum ini. Yang pertama adalah ayam tua hidup dikawal di Sarawak. Yang kedua, kepak ayam dikawal di Sarawak, Sabah dan wilayah Persekutuan Labuan. Daging kambing biri-biri import bertulang. Keempat, tomato. Yang kelima, lada bangla hijau. Keenam, kubis bulat import dari China dan Indonesia. Lobak merah, ubi kentang import daripada China. Babi hidup dikawal perangkat ladang. Daging babi, perut dan juga daging babi, daging dan lemak.
He said this at a press conference at the Parliament building in Kuala Lumpur on Tuesday. Salahuddin further explained that the implementation period of the price control scheme for Christmas was appropriate, as it would be able to create a win-win situation for consumers and traders. Meanwhile, Salahuddin said more than 2,000 enforcement personnel would be deployed to monitor the prices of goods at public markets, farmers' markets, and retail outlets nationwide. The strategy, he said, would ensure effective enforcement and immediate response to consumers' complaints. He also hopes all traders will adhere to the prices set under the scheme and display the pink price tags for the controlled price items. He added stern action, including penalties, will be taken against traders who fail to comply with the regulations under the scheme. The public can check the prices of the items involved under the Christmas SHMMP on the Ministry of Domestic Trade and Cost of Living website at www.kpdnhep.gov.my.
Now, Malaysia is in dire need of local engineers in the country for the continuation of development in the country, since the ratio of engineers to the population is currently very low. Therefore, Works Minister Datuk Seri Alexander Nantalinggi wants more aggressive and proactive measures to be taken by appointing more people from the technical profession to fill strategic and policy-making positions in the public service.
Negara kita masih memerlukan ramai jurutera untuk kelangsungan pembangunan. Merujuk kepada maklumat daripada Lembaga Jurutera Malaysia, Board of Engineers Malaysia, BEM, nisbah jurutera kepada populasi rakyat Malaysia hanya 1:170 berbanding dengan negara-negara maju yang lain.
In this regard, Nanta revealed that the Board of Engineers Malaysia, BEM, has created a specific task force to conduct a study on the starting salary of engineers nationwide.
Usaha yang lebih agresif dan proaktif perlu direncanakan dengan melantik lebih ramai golongan profesion teknikal mengisi jawatan-jawatan strategik dan pembuat dasar di perkhidmatan awam. Syarikat-syarikat berkaitan kerajaan atau GLC juga disarankan melibatkan kalangan profesional teknikal di dalam tabir urus syarikat seperti ahli lembaga pengarah atau ketua pegawai eksekutif.
He said this in a recorded speech in conjunction with the launch of the National Technical Profession Day, HPTN 2022, on Tuesday. In the same development, Nanta stressed that mastering technology is the catalyst to the development and modernization of a country, with youth championing the future of the country. As such, he said it is crucial for the country to provide exposure related to the technical profession to youth so as to continue the legacy in the landscape of the country's development, thus making Malaysia a viable and sustainable developing country in the era of the Industrial Revolution 4.0.
On to our next news. Sarawak, led by its Premier Datuk Patinggi Tan Sri Abang Johari Tun Openg, will continue to pursue comprehensive constitutional amendments to protect its rights under the Malaysian Agreement 1963 or MA63, including restoring its status as an equal partner in the Federation. Deputy Minister in the Premier's Department for Law, MA63 and State-Federal Relations, Dato' Sharifah Hasidah Said Aman Ghazali, assured that this is necessary to ensure every right as enshrined in the original MA63 is given due consideration and recognized to bring about significant changes in Sarawak.
I hope that Sarawak akan terus maju di bawah kepimpinan Yang Amat Berhormat Premier kita, dan kita akan terus memperjuangkan hak-hak kita seperti yang termaktub di bawah MA63 dan dokumen-dokumen yang penting bersama-sama dengan MA63.
Hasidah further stressed that the country's administration will focus on political stability. She opined that political stability is the main reason why Gabungan Parti Sarawak GPS, which forms the backbone of the state government, had decided to lend its support to the unity government.
Kita mengharapkan bagi negeri Sarawak agar kerajaan perpaduan yang ada sekarang ini akan terus stabil, akan terus dapat fokus untuk membangunkan Malaysia dan memastikan negara kita terus maju ke hadapan dan kurang politik.
In the same event, Sharifah Hasidah extended her congratulations and support to Lanang's Member of Parliament MP, Alice Lau, as one of the two Dewan Rakyat's deputy speakers. Hasidah opined that she is certainly the right person to fill the role in ensuring that Parliament sittings run smoothly, and held her appointment as a good example of women's representation in politics.
After all, this is up to the ahli-ahli parlimen untuk memilih dan mereka memilihlah. Itu pulang kepada ahli parlimen. Tapi saya yakin beliau berkebolehan dan saya melihat ini sebagai satu pengiktirafan kepada wanita lah. Ya, wanita untuk jadi timbalan speaker. Untuk memastikan perjalanan persidangan parlimen berjalan lancar. Saya yakin beliau dapat melaksanakan tugasan dengan baiklah.
She told this to reporters during the TVET College Community Kuching 2022 program at Maidan Vesta Tunku, Petrajaya on Tuesday.
Now, Sarawak's foray into hydrogen autonomous rail transit, or ART, is the first step in decarbonisation of the transport sector. Deputy Minister of Energy and Environmental Sustainability, Dr. Hazlan Abanghibni, said with the advantage of hydrogen in public transport systems such as the ART, it will be able to reduce up to 15% of the carbon footprint in Kuching district by 2030.
Hazlan further stressed that the ART system will be able to negate the need to create new expensive logistic infrastructure, which is ideal for towns and cities that are already densely populated and costly to build new railways or subways. Hazlan also said the hydrogen economy is estimated to create 30 million new jobs worldwide by 2050, boosting the world's economy by $2.5 trillion, especially in the manufacturing, operations, maintenance and inspection of electrolyzers, hydrogen fuel cells and the different spin-off industries that come with the availability of clean energy. Previously, on December 17, the Premier of Sarawak, Dato' Peninggi Tan Sri Abang Johari Tun Openg, officiated the groundbreaking ceremony for the hydrogen-powered base ART system in Sarawak. Abang Johari said that the ART system is the state's government commitment to decarbonisation in the public transport sector, in line with the post-COVID-19 development strategy PCDS 2030, which highlights environmental sustainability, economy and social inclusivity. The ART system is expected to be operational by 2025, connecting two districts, namely Kota Samarhan and Kuching, with an estimated length of 69.9 kilometers.
On to our next update. A house in Kampong Pulau Ulu, Kuching was burned down early this morning, leaving 14 of its occupants homeless. Sarawak Fire and Rescue Department Bomba said in a statement that there were no injuries as the occupants managed to escape safely from the fire. And according to Bomba, they received a distress call about the incident at 4:22 a.m. and firefighters from the Petrajaya and Padungan fire station were deployed to the scene. The firefighters involved proceeded to extinguishing the fire and managed to control it moments later. After ensuring the situation was completely safe, the firefighters ended the operation at around 6:39 a.m. The total losses and cause of the fire incident are still under investigation. Search and rescue team for Batang Kali expanded 4 times to search for missing victims, and China records 5 new COVID deaths as it faces its surging infections. All that and more right here on TVS Nightline. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Nightline. Now, the search and rescue sweeper team that was deployed to search for the remaining 9 victims of the landslide incident at Batang Kali, Selangor has been increased to 28 people from 7 previously. Hafizah Muhammad Noor, the Assistant Director of the Selangor Fire and Rescue Department, said the team comprises of personnel from the Malaysian Armed Forces and the Malaysian Fire and Rescue Department.
He said this at a press conference on Tuesday. He further added that the operation on its 5th day started at 8 a.m. with the team still clueless on the whereabouts of the remaining victims and having to search through soft, muddy ground. The landslide, which happened at 2:42 a.m. last Friday at the father's organic farm campsite, had claimed 24 lives thus far, while 9 still missing, while 61 of them were safely rescued.
Now, Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim envisioned Malaysia's gross domestic product (GDP) growth for this year is very likely to exceed the earlier projection of between 6.5% and 7.0%. He said the sentiment remains positive at the end of 2022 with encouraging economic performance following the reopening of the economy amid the transition to the COVID-19 endemic phase.
Anwar, who is also the finance minister, noted that unemployment rate also dropped to 3.6% in October 2022.
Kalau kita sebut kadar pengangguran 36% bunyinya baik, tetapi bagi ratusan ribu yang menganggur itu tidak sebaik yang kita sebutkan di sini. Sebab itu ada langkah-langkah yang diambil untuk mencari jalan mengurangkan beban kerajaan.
Meanwhile, Anwar said the entanglement of geopolitical conflicts has led to global inflationary pressures and weakened economic growth, and the surge in commodity and food prices has adversely impacted Malaysians in terms of cost of living. He noted that the International Monetary Fund (IMF) has forecast that global economic growth would slow from 3.2% in 2022 to 2.7% in 2023. He said this during the tabling of the Consolidated Fund Expenditure on Account Bill 2022 and motion for interim development expenditure estimates for 2023 in the Dewan Rakyat on Tuesday.
The government will import at least 2 to 10 million chicken eggs daily from India starting this Thursday to meet local needs and demands until the egg supply in the country stabilizes. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim said the import of chicken eggs has begun since December 15th, starting with the import of 100,000 eggs.
Ini masalah kita ni kartel. Ya, masalahnya ialah menetapkan kepada syarikat-syarikat besar menentukan harga dan bentuk pengeluaran. Mesti ada kekuatan politik tekad untuk menyatakan dalam dasar ekonomi ini kemaslahatan awam, orang ramai dan rakyat itu diutamakan. Maka kita telah membuat perubahan dengan memberikan keizinan import 15 Disember 100,000 biji telur dan mulai 22 Disember 2 sehingga 10 juta biji telur sehari akan dibawa masuk sehingga keadaan stabil dan keupayaan pengeluaran tempatan.
He said this when presenting the Consolidated Fund Expenditure on Account Bill in Dewan Rakyat today. The government also agreed not to increase electricity tariffs to all domestic users and micro, small and medium enterprises (PMKS) such as restaurants, small workshops, retail stores, farmers and gardeners.
Tetapi bila meneliti semula, saya tidak sanggup meneruskan, maka kadar elektrik tidak dinaikkan bagi keperluan domestik, bagi SMEs, bagi keperluan pengeluaran pertanian. Akan dinaikkan hanya bagi pengeluar syarikat-syarikat besar seperti multinational corporations, syarikat-syarikat yang gergasi yang punya keuntungan bilion ringgit. Dan itu yang kita putuskan, ada anjakan.
With that being said, the government will bear a subsidy of more than 10 billion ringgit for the first 6 months of 2023.
The People's Cash Aid Phase 1 will be disbursed earlier in January 2023 instead of in March. According to the Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim, the unity government has agreed to continue several aid initiatives which were announced in the previous 2023 budget. He said this when tabling the mini budget for service expenditure at the Dewan Rakyat on Tuesday. And the government will also continue giving the early schooling aid of 150 ringgit to all pupils this January, regardless of their parents' income limits, in addition to the social welfare assistance to poor households, the elderly and the disabled. The 107.7 billion ringgit temporary operating budget has been passed in the Dewan Rakyat. It is meant to pay for the salaries of civil servants and other related operational expenditures to ensure the smooth operations of the government machinery.
The mini-budget or special allocation was tabled for its second reading earlier today by Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim, who is also Finance Minister. Anwar said the budget was passed by members of parliament for the government to spend a portion of the total estimated expenses during the months prior to the retabling and passing of the supply bill for the 2023 budget. He added the estimated expenses under the bill include payments of emoluments for the civil servants, utilities, scholarships, social welfare aid, as well as education and health services. The mini-budget was also passed so that payments for ongoing development projects and contracts can be made on schedule. According to the Dewan Rakyat order paper, funds for the temporary budget will come from the Development Fund. The government is in the midst of revising the 2023 budget tabled by the previous government before Parliament was dissolved last November. Anwar is scheduled to table a full new budget in February 2023.
Thank you for staying with us. Now, over at World News, China recorded an additional 5 new deaths today on Monday, December 19th, following the first 2 casualties recorded a day before. The surge in infection has increased the demand for delivery services as residents pull away from crowded places such as pharmacies and clinics, where many are thronged to get their medical supplies. Though the country faces a possible new wave of COVID-19 infection, some delivery men gave positive remarks on China's decision to reopen its border.
The reopening has been slightly burdensome. It's a bit of a burden to suddenly reopen when the supply of medications is not sufficiently prepared. But I support the reopening. I'm not worried. The people around me, loads of them have tested positive. But I am not positive yet. I have been taking various supplements and vitamins.
An official statement published on Monday said Beijing will be expediting the procurement of COVID-19 drugs to relieve pressure from domestic shortages. Since the beginning of the pandemic in late 2019, China only reported 5,242 deaths due to COVID-19. But there are rising doubts that the statistics will only capture the full impact of the virus after China eased its stringent curbs since it took effect on December 7th.
And finally, the United States of America hopes that China can address the current COVID-19 outbreak as the death toll from the virus is a global concern due to the size of the Chinese economy. State Department spokesperson Ned Price said it is not only good for China to be in a stronger position vis-a-vis COVID, but it is good for the rest of the world as well.
The toll of the virus is of concern to the rest of the world, given the size of China's GDP, given the size of China's economy. It's not only good for China to be in a stronger position vis-a-vis COVID, but it's good for the rest of the world as well. The United States continues to be a leading force for countries around the world in the provision of vaccines and helping countries overcome the acute phase of the virus. We certainly hope that will be the case before long in the PRC as well.
He added that anytime the virus is spreading, it has the potential to mutate and pose a threat everywhere, which is why the US is focused on helping countries around the world in addressing the matter. China reported its first COVID-related deaths in weeks on Monday, amid rising doubts over whether the official count was capturing the full toll of a disease that is ripping through cities. Monday's 2 deaths were the first to be reported by the National Health Commission since December 3rd, days before Beijing announced that it was lifting curbs that had largely kept the virus in check for 3 years but triggered widespread protests last month. The low number of deaths since the curbs were lifted on December 7th is inconsistent with the experience of other countries after similar moves. Officially, China reported just 5,237 COVID-related deaths during the pandemic, including the latest 2 fatalities, a tiny fraction of its 1.4 billion population.
And that's all the time we have for tonight's TVS Nightline. Once again, I'm Mahmoud Yusuf. Thank you for watching. Good night and Assalamualaikum.